and Legislative Committee, and all the members are present accounted for, and we'll have prayer. Let us pray. Our Father, who art the hope of all the earth, remember us in love and guide us by thine wisdom. We ask thee to grant blessings upon thy servants, our community leaders, the county mayor and commissioners, the city mayor and councilmen. Bless us with the spirit of wisdom, goodness, and truth. May law and order, justice, and peace prevail, defend our liberties, preserve our unity, and protect our community. To the honor of thy holy name. Amen. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the April 18th, 2023 Rules and Legislative Committee minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item for consideration is placing the May 9th, 2023 Commission minutes on the June 13th, 2023 County Commission agenda.
Make a motion, we place them on the agenda without a recommendation.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item is consideration of placing the notary applicants on the June 13th, 2023 County Commission agenda as requested by County Clerk Donna Thomas.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The fourth item is appointment of the Board of Education for the 4th district seat. We had an opening there. We had a memo sent to the mayor's office. It said the Bedford County School Board would like to request that the county commission appoint someone to the 4th district school board seat at an upcoming commission meeting. The unexpired seat of Courtney Bogle will be vacant after the April 20th, 2023 school board meeting. We will need an appointment for this seat when practical. Sincerely, Michael Cook, school board chairman.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think we need to have someone on that board. We like to have them come before the committee, but I think we need to have them on the school board now. So is the consensus, we just go ahead and send it up to the commission and have them.
We'll nominate from the floor like we did on the other commissioner seats
yeah.
and go that route.
Right. And that will be my motion, that we nominate from the floor and send this to the commission and we nominate from the floor and go from there.
Okay, Commissioner Epson, you're from the 4th district. Have you had anybody contact you that's interested in the position?
I have. Lana Craig is interested and I'll nominate her from the floor when we get ready, but.
Okay, have you had anyone else that's been interested? You know, if Commissioner Forbes has done. She's not walked in, has she? Has there been anybody else? I was asking
Well,
another commissioner
Commissioner
whether.
Neely had anybody in
Yeah,
mind.
I mean, yeah.
No.
That's the only one that I've had contact.
Okay, well, that'll be
with.
fine. All right. So is there,
The motion's made, I'm looking for a second.
I'm second,
okay.
absolutely.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the next agenda is the Veterans Report. It was in our packet. The number of that VA that were transported to VA hospitals was 50, and the number of veterans that came by the office was 71. Those numbers were slightly down from the March numbers. I don't know if Mike's here. Here's Mike. Mike, is there anything else you want to bring us up to date to?
No, we're pretty busy.
Okay, well, good. Is there any other questions for Mr. Roos or any of the committee? Motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the next two are for our own information. The Ag Center report, Commissioner Anderson.
Big thing we did is we went ahead and put the lights in building 2, and board paid for that, and the fair board came up and put the lights and new lights in the show ring LED lights, and that was really nice of them to do. We have a great working relationship with the Bedford County Fair Board, and that was very nice as well.
Okay, well, good. Okay, that's just for our own information. Any questions for Commissioner Anderson? Okay, the next is the clinic report. The medical end of it, saw 112 patients, in April. Physician volunteers are still Dr. Lou and Dr. Talbot. Dental, patients were, I believe, 36, and that work is done by Dr. Gray. And of course, there's nurse practitioners that help our physician volunteers, but they provide a valuable service for our community. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Lisa Carden is here. Lisa, would you have any comments on the center and anywhere, any information we have or new activities you may have?
We just hired a part-time dentist. He'll be in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. He'll be doing teledentistry on Tuesday. He's gonna be working 16 hours. We do have a backlog of 300.
Wow. Thank you for all the clinic does for us.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, it's just for our own information. So, the next item is the Joint Homeless Task Force, Commissioner.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. This last meeting was very informative. We were able to get through quite a bit of information. I did send a letter to you, and I give a copy to the entire committee. And basically what that letter is our first big action item to bring to y'all. And basically it's a request from our committee. It was a unanimous request to create a resolution or county policy on three main topics. And I'll kind of just go through those three main topics. The first one is anti-loitering. We directly focus on the county property or property managed by the county. The intent would be to create a resolution to directly focus on the use of those areas listed above, to limit the use to only intended for the use of that area. This was a concern for the group, as many individuals loiter and impact the local community, as reflected by the many citizens that attended our meetings to voice this concern. Anti-camping was the second one. This would directly focus on county property and property managed by the county. The intent would be to create a resolution to directly focus on the use of areas listed above, to limit the use of the area pertaining to sleeping in these public areas and gathering of belongings to appear to be permanent or semi-permanent. And then the third one was pedestrian interaction with vehicles. This would directly focus on the county roads, county property, and any property managed by the county. This would focus to be limiting the interaction with vehicles as it pertains to aggressive panhandling, impacting the traffic flow, and limiting the persistent panhandling by pedestrians. Now, as we understand, we are only a task force, and we were not there to look for the legal ramifications or those type things. So our recommendation would be to send this to legal, to allow them to review, and then allow your committee to be able to decide the actions moving forward. For us, it was just a recommendation, as what we saw through the numerous testimonies from citizens that are worried about public safety for their impact, the ones that live in the square business district, and we're addressing that with the city. But we do have city and county property within the city, and also the county roads that would be impacted. So that was our main action, and I'll take any questions, and then I'll kind of move on to our others.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. White, does that conflict with anything we have in our zoning and planning in any way? Does it add to as an element to assist and help?
Yeah, I think that, I've attended most of the meetings, and it found to be very valuable. Of course, I can say this, during the daytime today, we had a homeless person laying on the lawn charging cell phones. It happens almost every day. Sometimes they listen to rap music out loud, and sometimes they don't, but the anti-loitering policy would be a good one, I think, because, if you've got visiting dignitary, business leaders, those kind of things, they're looking to put industry here, they're gonna come visit the mayor's office. Developers looking to come here and build things in the community, and they're coming here to this office. There's a lot of people coming to this office, to this building, to do business, with the mayor's office, with the planning department, or archives, looking for records, lots of things.
Okay.
And I think an anti-loitering policy would absolutely be beneficial.
I think the mayor had a,
Our office has already been exploring that with CPAS. are some challenges about constitutionality. They're giving us all the data, which we're pushing over to John T's office to look at it. And we weren't looking at it from task force, we were looking at it from just the concern that over time, we're going to wind up with the challenges that other communities have there. And so it's not crystal clear what we can do and can't do, but it's probably going to take us back to the Powers Act to maybe be able to do some of the things that you might can do, but there's some dots you're going to have to connect. And I understand you were saying that they weren't necessarily saying they were the legal rep on that, but anyway, it's not as simple as you can just do it. It doesn't appear to read that way, but it doesn't say there's not a path to get there.
Yeah.
And I do think that it's in the best interest of the county to be proactive no matter what, whether it be homeless or whatever the issue is to get control of that situation if we can before they show up.
Correct.
Well, I think Mr. Hooker has just mentioned, this is just the discussion from the group, and he's just bringing the suggestion out here, how we want to proceed with it. So based on what he's saying, Mr. Chairman, I mean, they're gonna talk, legal is talking to it now, about it now. CTAS is gonna give,
Information that's went over to John T.
okay, and then it'll come back to us, or will it come back to
That was
you?
related to loitering, by the way.
Okay.
Not any of the other things.
Loitering, yeah, loitering is the issue, that's the whole issue.
Same thing about overnight vehicles.
Yeah.
On county property.
Yeah.
Okay, those were the two issues that we were looking at, because we got some vehicles that are staying behind the annex.
Yeah.
Overnight, and, we don't actually have it posted, that no overnight parking, that's certainly simple to buy a sign and stick it up, but we gotta make sure that, all our other connections are there. And, so they caution, CTAS is giving comments about that and talking about, maybe even some pre-understanding with the district attorney's office about what you're, because you can put a sign up, but then what's your enforcement?
But loitering on public property is the real issue out there, and how do you?
So those are things that are a little more complicated.
Okay.
But I do think there's a path.
Okay.
And so we'll need to look at it, whatever.
Yeah.
So
I got a question for Drew. Now, this is a joint task force. You're working with the city.
Yes.
Are they going to do some similar things?
Yes, we've sent a similar letter to the city manager, Scott Collins, and so we're requesting them to do it on their side, to be able to go through the legal process.
Yeah.
They have a little more focus on roadways and loitering and panhandling than we do. We saw a direct impact here on this property, the courthouse, but we also do have, Dover Street and other things that we have to
Yeah.
look forward to. And so that's why we felt like that from a group that we needed to talk with both entities
Right.
to be able to, kind of work on this from both sides.
If I could just make a comment regarding that, I don't disagree with that statement either, but city municipalities have different powers than counties do. And so that's why
Yep.
we just got to get the traps right for us to be able to get there, because their charter dictates what they can do and what they can't do, where we're governed by state law. And so the state law doesn't make a provision for
Right.
counties or handicapped.
Yep, yep.
So they make it move faster than we can.
They can move faster.
The other thing is I'm also gonna send an email to John T. so he's aware of it as he does his legal review. Hendersonville, Chattanooga, Athens, Tennessee, and several communities on the West Coast have all identified several of these policies. And so I wanted to kind of point those to him so he can kind of see what's already met some legal challenges and see through that. And so that's kind of some of the policies we looked at as we talked about it through the group. Again, we did send this similar letter to the city. The other piece that we've been talking about has been the creation of a situational crisis center or a central hub for our homeless and poverty individuals in the community. We have a meeting tomorrow with the mayor, myself, and two nonprofit organizations that are looking at giving some money to Bedford County to create that. And we're in Office 204 in the Dover building. That is going to hopefully be up and running by this summer. And that will be fully funded by outside organizations for 3 years. And then we're also looking at additional positions that could be funded through those organizations through case management, mental health, as well as other types of entities. And so we're really ahead of many other communities as we're talking through this.
Are you working with a community clinic then?
Yes,
on
working with
204?
the community clinic. They have been instrumental in this process. They've actually kind of laid the groundwork for this, and then our task force kind of came in and kind of gave them a little gasoline to put on the fire, and I think it's been really good. The mayor's office has been along with the pathway, so they're going to be meeting with us again tomorrow. So that's the two big items that came out of that group. I want to just commend all of the citizens that came to that group, the committee members. They have been instrumental in this process. Chris White has been in almost every meeting and has given us insight as it comes to the codes aspect, as well as just the personal impact that he's living with, as well as law enforcement. They've been part of this. This has been one of the best things that I've seen in a while as a group that's got together and they hit the ground running, and in 5 months we've been able to come up with some really good things. We are going to take the summer off because this group has really been working hard. We're going to meet back in August, and then our hope is to kind of hit the ground running in August and then wrap this thing up by December, and then disband the group in December and allow the different entities to start taking it over at that point.
Great. Any other questions? Sounds great. So we'll just leave it where it is, and we'll wait for more input back from the lawyers and other powers that may be, and we'll go forward with it whenever we can.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other questions concerning the homeless task force? If not, we'll go on to other old business. There's a resolution to amend the zoning resolution for Bedford County. It's been deferred for a number of months. Again, Commissioner Anderson, I guess.
There's no sense until the planning commission decides what they're gonna do. That's what we're waiting on.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
it should be deferred for another month.
Is that, yes,
In general.
Some of these are coming through.
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Yeah, there's a couple already.
Okay.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, so we're getting close to finishing, I'd say.
I'll second Mr. Anderson's motion. that we
Okay.
Defer for another month.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next one is request for beer distance rule reconsideration is deferred in April for additional study. So we'll open that back up. Commissioner?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think we are looking at one process here, and that is the request was to take the distance from 2,000 feet to 0. And I asked our planning codes director, Chris White, to send us a letter that would tell us exactly how far the distances were from those, I think, 3 markets and 1. And I think we have those, I think the committee has those. I think Flat Creek is 193 feet. Bedford Market is 277 feet. Hall's Mill is 940 feet. Wheel Market is 202 feet. And Morning Glory, which is a donut shop up in Unionville, is 291 feet. Not that all of them have applied, some of them have, but that's where we are. So to discuss anything other than taking it from 2,000 to 0 is a waste of time. So we're either going to go to 0 or we're not. I think that the conversation we have had, I think we've kind of understand. I think there are people here who would like to say something, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if you want
so.
whatever
Yes,
you want to do on that.
So I'll start. Tracy Strassner again. We've got several of the businesses here that would like to speak on our behalf one more time. I think that you guys can hear as the summer has changed, weather's changed, our businesses are both picking up. And I know my business over the last couple of weekends, people who were coming through trying to get to the lake were all asking, do you sell there, do you sell beer? So just looking forward to, you guys want to kind of share what you guys are seeing. But we appreciate you guys considering this once again. I know that some of the commissioners are being creative now about options to create more revenue for the county. So we do know that this is another creative option for providing the revenue. Small as it may be compared to some other initiatives, that's an option too. But
I'd like to say something. Hi, everyone. I'm Beth, and Chuck and I own Hall's Mill Market. We live in Moore County, and Chuck has Barrel House Barbecue in Moore County. He's been there for 12 years. And that restaurant, as everyone I think knows, Moore County is a dry county. His restaurant was the second business to obtain their beer permit. And what that did for Barrel House Barbecue, which is world renowned, everybody knows Barrel House Barbecue. They visit from all over the world because of Jack Daniel's. That's given us the opportunity to put that money back into our community. Churches, schools, all over. I mean, there are people repeatedly come and ask us for donations for sports teams, and that gives us the ability to do that. We recently purchased Hall's Mill Market a year ago. It's been about a year. And on our way over, we were the money that we have invested in businesses in Bedford County to date. And it's, I know a lot of people have, companies spend a lot more money, but I think we've estimated, we've put about $1 million into property to try to make successful businesses out of it and to help generate income for not only ourselves, but for the county. And so we just would like to have that opportunity. We don't want to be, we don't want to be a beer joint. We just want to have a successful go at it. I know Hall's Mill hasn't had improvements in that building, I think, in about 23 years. So we're facing, a furnace that doesn't work, a ventilation system that needs repair, just many things like that. And that would give us the opportunity to do that, as well as to help our church that we neighbor and our communities. We are sponsoring a baseball team, and that's fun. And so, we plan to use that to generate, income for ourselves, and to help us grow, and to be a positive point in Bedford County. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Young.
I'd like Commissioner Vick to, because it's not really about the distance. There are other things that go along with this if we did away with the distance. And I know we've got some people sitting back here from some of the churches and stuff, so I would ask for him to go through that again, what it's not just the distance, it's the over-the-counter sales and so forth when we do away with it. So let's clarify for them also.
Mr. Chairman, you want to go through that?
Well, just briefly again, I thought we did pretty thoroughly the last meeting, but
We'll make it quick.
okay.
When you apply for a beer application, and Commissioner Thompson is here, and we rely on him because he was experienced in that capacity as chairman of beer board, you apply for a license. When you apply for that license, you get a twofold on-premise, off-premise ability. Now, you can request one of those. You can request to on-premise, but you are granted both of them. Now, that's the county procedure versus the state process. So the way we have defined these is through our zoning. So through our zoning, we are trying very diligently to make certain that we have people who can use it, who can sell it on site and then carry it out, not sell it on site and consume it. But they still have that option. So it's hard to differentiate the state and the county position. So what we have used is the zoning tool so that if you were only going to consume it on site, you would have to meet some certain requirements from our zoning, bathrooms, parking, turnaround spaces, a lot of little nuances that avoid having Biff and I pull a trailer up and start selling beer out of a trailer somewhere. And that's what we've tried to avoid, to have, not having those beer joints, but have a respectable business in there. So that's the difference I think you're asking me to.
But when you get a beer license, you can sell it.
Yes, you can. There's no doubt about that. That's it. So the commission has to decide whether they want to do this or not, to go to 0 or 2,000. That's the whole issue right there.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Hooker.
Just a point of clarification, just make sure this is not just churches this impacts, this is also schools. Just want to make sure that is also highlighted, that's the big piece that is kind of being, that we're not talking about, that this does impact the schools as well.
And community centers.
And other public meeting places or gathering places, yes.
So I don't want anybody thinking we're misleading anybody, that we're trying to push this through. I want everybody to know the hard facts so that they know this is what we're going to do. So
I would counter that you can't always put language in local areas that you want.
No, I'm not disagreeing, I'm just saying that we're not meeting.
It's not a one and done and you're opening it up for all three. If you guys are the commission and the planning and zoning, I think you want to put protective measures in. I would want to put protective measures in around my school. I mean, there's other elements that are there, adult stores, CBD stores, other things that you may want to protect within a certain distance. We should make sure that those barriers or boundaries are in place as well.
and that's why we have zoning. That's why we have zoning to balance that. So what I would like to do, I don't know if there's any more discussion.
Well, some
Yep,
from,
yep,
some may be from the churches, somebody might want to speak or they might not, but we'll give them an opportunity to speak if you'd like. Okay, yes, sir?
explain to you, overlay with big multiple schools. And go along with it, so I can help consider.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Buddy Nails. I'm a minister at Bedford County Church of Christ. I don't think it would be a good measure to change, mainly because protecting children, which is hard enough to protect them anyway, and schools are in that package, as you just mentioned, and it's to protect children, and that applies in relation to getting close to beer sales when people get out of services. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir. Mr. Thomas.
When you talk about that, and I'm not sure about the laws, but they can sell it 7 days a week. Because used to, I remember when they couldn't sell it on Sunday, and I don't know if that's still, does that change that for Bedford
Isn't it
County? if we
after
change it?
12
It's
on
after
Sunday?
noon on Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's after 12. But that's a state law.
Yeah.
The state did that.
Any other? Would like to speak,
Yeah, I don't want to
Mary?
get off in the weeds of all this stuff, but here, even if the county was to put planning, through planning or zoning, some stipulations about the nature of the business requirements in there, it's still gonna require the distance rule would have to be reduced. There's no way out of that. Everybody understands that. Yeah, and I'm not saying you want to reduce that before you had your other things in place, but putting those in place doesn't supersede the distance rule. The county would still have to deal with bringing the distance rule to whatever number you want it to be in the end. So just in case anybody's not clear about that.
Yes, and it's, I guess it's been, as Commissioner Vick, what was it, July 7th, 1984? So it's been in the 80s, it's been a law, and it is 2,000 feet, which is the maximum amount. But it is a tough situation for small stores. But I don't think the commission is at the demise of these country stores. There are many economic factors that affect these stores, and the biggest one is inflation. All of us, whether you're farming or a store owner or anything else, you've got inflated prices you have to pay for goods and services, which causes you to have to demand a higher price when you sell, which that affects everybody. But we don't affect that. The county commission doesn't have anything to do with the inflation rate, and certainly the overhead is something that needs to be discussed. Now you can pull it up and you can look to see what these store owners paid for those stores, and that's a big thing. The purchase price of a store is factored into your overhead. That's a big decision, and they did that on their own free will and accord. We had nothing to do with that decision of what they paid for the price of that store. And that is a big deal. That's part of your overhead. We had nothing to do with that. And the location of the store. I mean, that location, as you know, to sell anything, it's if you're going to buy an operating business, it's location. That's we don't have any control over that, or the amount of goods or services they're providing in these stores. We don't have control over that, and certainly the interest rates have gone up, and even as they all noted, competition. There's competition and a lot of competition. I don't care what you're doing, whatever business. Whether it's a restaurant business, which is the most failed business in the United States, of restaurants. It's very, very competitive. And we don't control any of those things. So, the commission does not control these economic factors. None of them that I just mentioned. And the markets have never sold beer. And beer sales, that doesn't guarantee a market's success or failure. I think in the end, basically, it's going to be the management of those stores, and then certainly the overhead's going to factor in. And that has to do with some other things that I just mentioned that we have no control over. So I do think it's important. We've had a beer boundary in place since July 7th, 1984. It has been in place as a buffer for our schools, for our churches, and our community centers and public parks. And I guess since then, I ain't even thought about it, but I had another comment. Well, we have the county owns a volunteer fire department in Flat Creek that butts up right to the property. Does that need to be considered? I never thought about it until I got that email the other day. But anyhow, let us continue to protect our schools, children, our church members, and our farmers. And as consumers, let's buy small, let's buy local, and let's support these stores as much as we can. But we've got other people to consider here, and I've already mentioned them. Our school children, church members, and our farmers in these rural communities.
How come we don't consider them inside the city limits? I mean,
Well, that's a municipality, and it's different. It's a completely different scenario. We just said it, the county mayor said that well, I don't know. I'm just telling you, the city's got municipalities' powers, and it's completely different from county. He's already explained that on that other issue. So it was crystal clear what he said, what we could do on the task force.
And they have their own beer board and everything. It doesn't, it's not decided by this group on their behalf. Again, this is the charter of the county, the city, and so that's empowers them to have that. So it's totally independent of the county.
Well, is it the consensus of the committee that we send it to the floor to debate this on the floor?
I think we need to at least send it to the.
That's fine, me gonna send it, but I'm not gonna
I
recommend
think
it.
it needs to be
That's
decided
fine.
by
recommendation.
8 people.
Y'all,
No, ma'am, we're through. Thank you. We're fixing it. We're gonna do business right here on the committee. Now, okay, Commissioner Vick.
I think that we send a recommendation to the commission. Instead of sending it in June, let's send it in July. Because
Correct,
we have a
because of the budget.
full
Yeah.
agenda in here with the budget and everything. So
Yeah.
let's put it on
Send
the
it
July
July.
calendar, and we'll talk
And we'll
about it
vote
on
on
the
it.
floor in July. And the final decision will be made by the commission on here, but this commission, and if I've asked for a second on
I
it.
got a second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, good. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the new business, is Bedford County Planning Commission resolution to adopt revised subdivision regulations for Bedford County signs. And it was in your packet. I guess it's, yes. I'm assuming it's the top one. Yeah. See, it goes through the streets and
Yeah.
different signs
Yeah.
and all that stuff is through here. Section was preliminary plat. And then
We want Mr. White
Well, they can,
to briefly,
uh,
to adopt
Planning
revised.
Commission,
It's the air strips.
Is that subject? Okay, yeah,
subdivision regulations, yes, sir.
that's not before you guys. I don't know.
That's just, I think it was just for information.
Okay, so we don't have to take any action. It's still in planning. Okay, we'll go second one. So there's no action needed on that. We'll do the second one. It's on there too, I think.
Airstrips, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so in question. So the first one was in here for our information only.
Okay.
We do not have to place it on the agenda. Okay, the next resolution is a Bedford County Planning Commission resolution to amend Article 3 of the zoning resolution of Bedford County, which includes private airstrips.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve this.
Okay, is there a second?
Let's get a little further. Mr. White can explain.
Okay,
I was gonna
let's
say, I
need a second, then we'll open for discussion.
Yeah, I would like, I'll second it, and then like I
Okay.
said,
And
let's
it's open for
let Chris
discussion.
explain
General information.
the differences, I
Yeah.
guess.
So, when we, first of all, there's quite a few private airports in the county right now, all of them are grandfathered in, with the exception of one, because that was one that was approved by the DPA under these new not these new standards, but the standards that we created about 6 years ago. And those standards were, in my opinion, let's just say not as well studied as the things we know about private airstrips today. And so this all came about, as you know, we're working on a lot of different resolution amendments, and will culminate in the plan development standards and things like that. But there's just lots of housekeeping that I'm trying to take care of right now. This being one of them, the signage, you should have one for signage as well. That I wanted to clean up the last election cycle, but I wanted to wait till we were clearly out of an election cycle before I started working, because a lot of the political signage language that we had in that one, and because I'll go ahead and talk about that too, because you're going to want to know about that. Some of that stuff was just really unconstitutional these particular standards, the regulation that we have for private airstrip, the minimum length was 1,500 feet long. And so, that was a little too long. We had a person who applied who take off and land his airplane at 60 feet, you know. We have others, like the typical single engine aircraft that somebody owns can take off from 600 to 800 feet and land in a lot shorter distance than that. And so the 1,500 foot was just a little too much for that, and it takes up enormous pieces of land to make all that work. So what we did is we studied it a lot more intensely, and we used a free airport consultant and engineer on this thing. And what we did is we come up with a metric that's in there that is based on the applicant's airplane or planes. We used the largest one that whose airplane manual, has required the longest amount of takeoff wing, so we multiply that by 1.5. And the reason why the engineer suggested we do that is because if a person is taking off an aircraft, let's just say worst case scenario, they get all the way where they just raise, they get off the ground, and then they for some reason need to set it back down. It gives them basically an extra huge amount of distance to be able to land the aircraft and slow it down so that they don't end up taking it off the the runway strip. So what we did is we just kind of tailored those. We also fixed a few little problems in there for fuel sale. We basically didn't want them to become commercial operations. We want them to lease hangar space. We don't want them to other people. We don't want them to sell fuel. But I think I fixed something in there so that if it was an emergency landing for some reason, and the FAA wanted them to land in that particular strip, that they could get, be reimbursed for fuel if they wanted to help somebody out and get the airplane back off. But we just fixed a few things in there like that. And that was just one of those low-hanging fruits that we needed to fix for a long time, and it was pretty quick.
Well, it was pretty interesting. We had that hearing at the BZA on the airfield that kind of struck our attention. So we had a nice long hearing about a guy who wanted to do it, and so that provoked the study of this. And so
My other question might be, though, with MTSU bringing supposedly the flight school here, I'm afraid you're going to see, without some regulation, more and more people wanting to do the private thing to get away from out of here. And that's why we better do something now before this happens, because that's my fear is once MTSU gets here, you're not going to fly to this airport anymore. I'm going to go fly to Commissioner Vick's farm and do it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go to Commissioner Fair and land my plane there because I'm not going to fool the airport.
They have to be
Makes it
5
my
miles, 5 miles from the nearest airport.
Nobody is.
Yeah. And I take it all these are grass fields?
They're all grass fields. There's a few more little things in there, but the safety stuff, we put in there, they had to have signage for public safety to be able to find the hangar, the area where they would store the airplane in case there's an emergency. That's in there now. I'm just looking at it from a public safety perspective here. A few other little things in there, I don't recall off the top of my head, but.
that's what I was telling them. Through our conversations we had, there are a lot of pilots that live in, commercial pilots.
Yes.
So,
But before the first set of standards were done, there was not a single airstrip out there that was ever built to a set of standards.
and now we got standards.
These new standards
Right.
also
I like it.
require that they have to design it with using basically an airport consultant, an engineer, and they have to report that to the FAA and be on the FAA's list. And that way, if there is an air emergency, the FAA knows where those strips are, and they can direct people to them.
That's good.
So we use it as a public safety.
Good. Get your motion second, don't you?
Yep.
Yes. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the last item is Juneteenth, state holiday. I think the county mayor's office got a memo from Governor Lee's office to announce that it would be a paid holiday effective June of 2023 this year. So county mayor, can you bring us up to date?
I just want to make you aware of it. We mirror the state's schedule, and that's what they've done. And we reached out to see if they were thinking maybe next year, because really we didn't budget for it, which it wouldn't be a major impact. But they said when the governor signs the budget, then it's in effect, so it would technically be for this year. So just FYI, just so everybody knows what's going on.
Okay.
Now, did we have the Bedford County sign regulations?
Yeah,
We did?
It was
It
just our
says-
prior
says
Oh,
that's
that was the one
our-
that just-
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess we need to place that on or it's a done deal, so I don't know if we need to.
Does the airstrip need to go to the commission?
We did
We've already
that.
did that.
Yeah, we did that.
We've already
Yeah,
done
we
it.
voted on that.
Oh, the sign needs to
The
go?
sign resolution and
Okay.
Oh, I thought you said the sign didn't, they took it. no.
Subdivision.
the subreg.
Subregs
The
don't.
subreg resolution will stay with the planning commission. They're the ones with.
Okay.
So that's not in front of you, the two in front of you are the sign and the air.
Yeah.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend we send the sign regulation to the full commission at next week.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion second. Is there any questions? Because that was a little confusing.
Yes.
Okay, any questions? Being none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that's got them both on the
Yeah.
commission agenda.
Before the commission meeting, before both of those.
All right.
Okay.
We'll post it, but there
Was quite a bit going on. I had 2 or 3 announcements. I think this Friday, the Gilliam House Fish Fry is there on Lipscomb Street. It's from 3 to 7. They have bake sale and some other stuff going on there. I think that following Monday, the 4th District's having a town hall meeting. As far as I know, that's one of the first that I recall commissioners having a town hall meeting. But it's Monday, May the 22nd, is that right?
Yes.
Both of them are here?
Yes.
And good for y'all. They're gonna have a town hall meeting at Liberty School, and it starts at 6:30. Yes, sir?
Troy had one.
Troy had one just a couple weeks ago. And
Well,
then-
good. I
and then
missed that.
Myself and Eric Maddox will be having a town hall that's open to the entire county, but specifically District 1 on June 8th.
Okay, good, great. It's good to get get people involved and get feedback from the citizens within those individual districts. Also, there's the Bedford County Public Library. Most of you probably got notes from that. They've been there 8 years now, and they're having a reception. I think it's a noon reception on the 24th. Okay, good. Oh, good. Okay, that'll be fine.
When is the
I'm
new?
not sure that they get.
Okay, so that's, I'm not gonna say it's Wednesday 24th. They're just gonna be, well, that's good, but it's gonna change, so I won't give you the date yet, but it's coming up soon. And then, Celebration City Car, they have big car shows. They've already had a big one out at the showground. They're having another one as they have a cruise in every last Friday, I think, of the month. And then I think it'll be May the 26th. It'll be here right at Shovel Square. And the last thing is Tennessee Backroads Heritage. They're a big tourism person. In fact, they're one of our, yes, that we give. And it's very important, as Commissioner Pinson and I both agree on. We're missing a lot of travel and traffic coming down 231 going to the distillery over in Moore County. There, I go to Flat Creek nearly every day and I come back. If I don't pass a tour bus or out-of-state cars, you can't imagine how many people are going out there. It takes me 10 minutes to get on Highway 82, and I'll meet about 10 cars. Half of them will be out of state inevitably. So we're missing out. Our square here is missing out on stopping these tourist buses and other things. Tourism, a big thing. So if we could get anything going to get them to stop here on our city square and to shop and to do business, we need to figure it out because we're missing out. We got them stopped here at Uncle Nearest, but we need to get them stopped here on the square if we can. But that's another meeting that's coming up. Their spring dinner is May the 30th.
And one thing, on
Okay.
Friday, the 19th, we're having our shoe distribution at Southside Elementary School. That's Friday, the 19th of May, starting at 7:30. Just first 7:30 meet, 7:45 introduction, 8 o'clock first class comes in there. 487 kids at Southside are going to get a new pair of shoes, a backpack from Coke, 3 books from the Governor's Literacy Foundation, thanks to the Bodecker Foundation, Tennessee Downs, and these guys, and they've done a great job. We've got a good group of people, but we need some more volunteers, so if you can sign up, let me know. We need volunteers to help us with that. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yes, sir.
High school graduations this weekend.
Wow.
Community's Friday night, Central Saturday night, Cascade. I believe Commissioner Sanders is Sunday, Saturday. Unless it rains. Central's at 7th
good.
football field unless it rains.
Are you going?
I gotta go to that. I wouldn't miss my
I think
baby girl
there's-
graduating.
I think
for the
there's
world.
several of them graduating. We've got
Yeah.
children and grandchildren involved with graduations.
Communities
There's a
is where
5th grade
it's on football
graduation,
field.
too.
Football field.
And a kindergarten.
Any other business come before the committee? Not entertain a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
So moved.
Right, that's why we have it.
All right, we'll call the Law Enforcement Committee meeting to order. All members are present. If you will, bow your head and we'll have a word of prayer. Our most gracious and kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings in life. Father, we just ask that you go with us and lead us and guide us and direct us in everything that we do. Father, may everything we do be pleasing to you and to the community. Father, just we thank you mostly for your Son, Jesus, who sacrificed his life so that we could have eternal life. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the March 21st, 2023 Law Enforcement Committee minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, next will be animal control report.
She's in the house.
She's in the house.
Hello, I don't have anything to add to the report. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Any questions for animal control?
I think so. Thank you.
Next will be the Sheriff's Department.
Sheriff,
Sheriff, you're up.
rise and shine.
Well, you have this, but I'd like to get the high points from the April, patrolled almost 70,000 miles, 772 warrants were served, 94 arrests, 402 inmates came through jail. In the courtrooms, the judge here can probably tell you better than me, but he deals with it. But the amount that was on the docket in the month of April, 1,156, and the total that we counted that came through the front doors into that area was 4,565 in the month of April. I do not have a drug task force report. It's not my fault. I have called 2 or 3 times, and I still haven't got it, and kind of getting ready for that, but anyway, I don't have it.
Catch it up next time.
All right.
The mayor wanted me to bring this out, and Linda, y'all cannot want to bring this in. Chief and I met with CTAS they came to my office last Thursday or Friday, and about different things. And while they were in there, they said, Sheriff, are you aware of this new bill that has passed, or law, or whatever, that about your workers going out? And no, and he said, well, don't feel bad. We haven't talked to a sheriff yet that was aware of it. But somehow or another, it got slipped through, passed through, whatever. And come, to my understanding, January of 24, unless we talk about any of them that go out to work, they've got to have a monitor, which is cost.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that cost is.
10, maybe, I'll just use something, $10 a day, and, or have an armed corrections officer or law enforcement officer with them. So it's basically going to put us out of, except right there at the sheriff's department. Possibly the city police department, they do have armed law enforcement, certified law enforcement officers. Anything else, I'm going to assume they're going to have to pay for this. We can say the city wants 20 people, they're going to have to pay for all of them every day. It's going to kind of wreck that. Now, I don't get too off, because I heard the mayor say, well, I'll go in the weeds. But they suggested to us that, and I figured knowing the Sheriff's Association, they'll probably next year come back and try to get that repealed or whatever. But that's not going to solve it
Come January.
It's already in law now, so it's my understanding in January that will end.
Really penalizes the prisoner too.
It penalizes them, it penalizes us, all the entities of the city and the county that are getting labor-free, basically, services, it's definitely. not-
Sheriff, that also is going to increase our costs because they're not going out anymore, and therefore they get to stay their sentence. Is that correct?
And then you're right, exactly. So it's gonna up that, it's not gonna be, matter of fact, that, I just mentioned this last week, this week I'm starting to get emails from the Sheriff's Association, so I guess we kind of got it right before it broke out, but, it's not gonna be a popular thing for 95 sheriffs.
No.
And our litter
citizens-
programs rely heavily on that, right? And so,
Not to mention, our county government,
Right.
city governments.
Yeah, with in the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a bullet for everybody.
Get Linda a shotgun,
Would it be
Do
a,
that?
since she was a school teacher, she qualifies as a correction officer.
yeah, she probably does.
Yeah, I know she did. Yeah.
Would it be a good thing, maybe us as a county commission, to draft a letter and send to our representatives and show our concern right now? I mean, I don't know that we could change anything if they pass it by law, but we could sure get the ball rolling,
I truly think this would be a short-term thing, but it's probably physically gonna take a year to.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So is that something that we need to do a motion on to,
If you,
want to draft a letter? I don't need to.
yeah, I don't mind, I don't mind sending something from the mayor's office, just simply having spoke with commissioners and not say it's official action of the commission that this raises immediate concerns and that we would ask for it to be revisited. I mean, I certainly can do that. Now, if you want an official resolution that maybe they would present on the floor of the state, I think there we'd need a resolution, but they've already out of session and this is already passed, so it's in effect. So I think probably a letter from the office is just as effective for now, is what I'm saying. But either way you want to do it, it's fine with me. We don't care.
Obviously, Pat Mars swings a big stick down there.
Yeah.
Right.
Shane Reed as
Shane.
well, so that's
Right.
one city, one.
Absolutely.
I want to comment on MRT.
Okay. All right, any other questions for the sheriff?
Sheriff, one quick question. I received word, actually today, that there was maybe possibly 2 overdoses in the jail. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on that situation?
Yeah, we have had, our officers did a really good job. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, they made a major fentanyl bust. The guy that got, there was 2 different ones, but I know one of the guys that got, it was a lot of stuff. And thought, of course, when the rest of them that got it all, and I'm not saying this is where it came from, it's my suspicion, some of it anyway. But these prisoners have ways of hiding this evidence that it's pretty hard to find. And I'm speaking of body cavity. And so I don't know if some of it got in like with him or not. But since that has happened, we have had at least one raid in our jail. And we did come up with some that's good. But we still have another. We're not sure if when we did that raid, it scared them and some of them swallowed it to hide the evidence. And maybe that's how the overdoses took place. But it's under investigation. Kia really knows a lot more in detail than what I'm saying. It's probably better I don't say too much because it is an ongoing investigation that we're doing internally. I talked to state corrections yesterday about possibly getting some of their dogs down here to search our jail. That's a process too. So. But that is true, and we are, as I speak.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Any further questions? Commissioner Pinson had a comment.
I would like to comment the program of the MRT program it was 2 Saturdays ago, we finished the third woman's graduation. And June 30th, we're graduating 16 men out of the program. Know that once that they go through the program, that does not subtract any days off their time in set. It is just a program to help them to get into a mindset of changing behavior. So,
Yeah, and Sylvia's absolutely right, she's very involved in it as well. You know, you're not gonna reach all of them, you'll reach some of them, a few of them. Then it's a win,
and as of right now, the ones that have graduated that has been released from jail has not returned, and that's good. Oh, one. Cross your fingers. Oh, I thought, oh gosh, no. But it's a good program, and a lot of the community has gotten behind this program and really supporting it. Tremendous, big turnout. So, but if you would like to go in, Lieutenant Kit would honor for you to go in and hear how this program is working. Thank you.
I mean, since she brought that up, how is that gonna affect these that go out and work off of that program? I know some of them are going to different factories and working. If this law,
It's
you say it's coming
get
up,
out of jail, but while they're in, it is gonna affect.
It's going to stop it.
it's
Yeah.
gonna stop that program. The only thing we can do is continue the education program.
We'll keep the education back.
It's possible the ones.
The employer might be willing to pay the cost
Yeah.
Yes.
for the monitoring. I think we should at least
Explore
explore that
that.
as an option, because even the city of Shelbyville may be willing to pay, I don't know, let's make it up, $10 a day for 3 people, because it costs them more than that to do what those people are doing. So I think we are gonna have to, I don't mind looking into it. We just got it, because the sheriff just made me aware of it. But it will affect us certainly. I didn't even realize we had till January, so that's like a
That
lifetime.
was my understanding.
So hopefully we can come up with a strategy before then.
Is your sheriff association meeting pretty soon to talk about all this?
Actually, it's gonna be close to the end of July.
End of July? Okay.
It wouldn't change it till next year.
Oh,
minimum
yeah, well,
anyway,
that's
because
probably
the
January,
State
yeah.
legislature would have to go in and then amend it, so.
All right, any further comments or questions for the sheriff? Hearing none, we will move to EMA report.
I got a text from Kelly. As I was coming in, the AC's been out all day, and they just about, she said she was just completely,
Okay.
she said she had to go.
We have a report.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, Dave.
I don't have anything really new to add. I'll say a couple things that's going on. We're working on, I was approached by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers about a floodplain study, asking if we would be interested in doing such. I talked to Chris White for the county side, and I also talked to the city of Sheffield. This is a free, doesn't cost us anything to have done, and it will assist us in making plans, adding to see where areas are affected by flooding. So I just want to put that out there. I've talked to both of those that we're interested in doing that as a combined group. So that's something out there that we should see coming along that can help us do some planning and some, Chris was saying, help him with some planning too on his end as far as codes and things like that. So we were happy to get that. Another thing, I don't know if it was last week, I think it was, I was notified by Homeland Security that I don't even know if it was underused or not. They were making threats that were coming from outside of our area to our school systems. So when I got that phone call, it came from the Department of Safety, and they told me what was going on, and they had these threats that was spreading this way. I immediately called Nakia and Brian Cruz with the police department to let them know what was going on, just so we'd have a heads up in case we got one of those. As far as my knowledge, we have not received any of those here in this area, but it has touched all around us. Murray County got one, Montgomery County got one, and some others. So, when I say that about Homeland Security, of course, the big thing is the schools. Homeland Security is talking about the schools. The governor signed the bill, and so that'll start January 1. Now, what that means, I don't know yet. We'll still get some guidance on that, but we have been able to look through the bill, and I've been sending to Nakia also. It's a lot of requirement for law enforcement and things like that, so we're weeding through that to see what that's going to mean for us as far as things that we have to do. So more information, I'm sure, to come on that as we get that. But right now, they're still saying that they are going to look at having one Homeland Security agent per county. I don't know if they'll follow through with that, if they'll group counties or what. That's like Moore County has 2 schools in it, and you got to take somewhere like Williamson County is going to get 1 person. I don't see quite how that's going to. I won't be that Moore County guy, so we're still waiting on some guidance from that. But I have gotten questions about that and how's it going to affect our Homeland Security, what we said here. And so one of the things that our office is EMA and Homeland Security. So 2 examples that we're trying on a school end, and we're still in touch with other information as it flows through. That's all I got. Any questions?
Any questions for David? Hearing none, thank you. As Linda May mentioned, Kelly was not here, but we do have her report. Probation.
Yeah, our report, one thing I wanted to note is, we did have our Goodwill Job event, on the 24th. Was not as successful as we was hoping it was going to be, but we did have a couple go into the, truck there that they brought on site. And, we picked a day that was no court traffic, so we're thinking, we still want to do another event, maybe a couple months down the road, and we're trying to get, our clients interested in job skills, resume writing, those type of things. The second thing I wanted to point out is on June the 2nd, we are going to start our off-site reporting. That location is down here by the river, where it's going to be every Friday. We're going to be staffed. We'll have 2, 1 officer, 1 admin in that building to try to bring in more traffic, because that was one of the biggest complaints we've had, out there at the Justice Center that was so far out. We get a lot of DUIs driving on the roads, things where it's harder for them to get out to that location. So we're trying to be in town for them, for the ones who have works at Tyson's. They used to come over on the lunch hour, just be more accessible, which hopes to be able to get our numbers up and get our fees coming in a little better. So we're just doing something to try to make our clients more successful in probation.
And that's what we talked, what we talked about before. It's a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to go into the facility without basically any real cost. And so if at what time we need to restructure where we'd be located, we'll be able to do that. But this will give us opportunity to see if we can improve compliance, which is what we should all be about.
What's the time of the building opening?
It's going to be the same hours as our office out there,
8 to 4.
And that's just on Fridays, right?
It is just on Friday.
Every Friday?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, that's what we're trying. If it becomes successful, we may try to add another day here and there. But right now, we're just doing Fridays. We figure it's payday. People will get the checks and be able to pay. Fridays is a very popular. Everybody wakes up last minute.
And again, you're doing that with your current staff as we test this. Now, someday, if we're wildly successful, we may have to revisit it.
All right, any
Do you-
further?
Do you have a date set for your next job event? You already have a
We
date set?
don't, we don't have a next date. I wanted to focus on getting this open.
Yeah.
And hoping that, if this is successful, we may do our next job event here because it's down here by the river.
Yeah.
It's accessible to the homeless.
Correct.
So get more traffic, by the bridge there. So we're hoping that if this is successful, then the next event can be held there and be even more successful. And it's open to the public, it's not just for our clients.
Right.
The mobile job career center, anyone can come to that.
All right, any further questions? All right, we'll need a motion to approve the reports as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all approved?
Aye.
Aye.
Any other reports to come? Old business? New business? I think I made a lot of announcements in the first one. We have to repeat them. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call the Courthouse and Property Committee meeting to order, and Commissioner Hooker's going to lead us in prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for another beautiful day. Thank you for us being able to get together to do the county's business. Just be with everybody on this committee, be with all the constituents out in the community, and just help us to look through the information and be able to make good decisions for our county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And I believe everyone's here except for Commissioner Thomas. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the April 18th Courthouse and Property Committee minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next is zoning. Does anybody have any questions, any comments?
Chris, could you, if you don't mind, could you kind of go through some of the conversation about the zoning ordinances about, as we talked about with the beer, the things that you're kind of looking at to be able to try to reinforce that where it's a stable business rather than, like as they've mentioned, like not pulling up a trailer and trying to open something up. What are you looking at? I don't know if you're there yet. Yeah. So, essentially, there's a beer board, and the beer board has their job. And then, of course, there's the zoning and planning department, and of course, we have our job. They operate together, so the beer board can, obviously, somebody can come to ask for a beer permit. But if the place is not zoned properly, if it's not zoned for commercial sales, then, the person still can't sell alcohol. Okay, so from that regard, there is a fail-safe in place. Now, what's been discussed in the past is that, we have different types of commercial zoning. We have two different types of commercial zoning, C1 and C2. And for the most part, the I guess you could say, the less noxious commercial activities are allowed in C1, which is our rural district zoning, and then more noxious commercial activity or more intensive commercial activities allowed in the C2. C2 zones are allowed really only in areas with close proximity to a municipality's boundary. So the problem with our current zoning is it doesn't specifically address alcohol sales. It does address things like table sales, like eating and drinking establishments, which is a C2 type of zoning, versus a neighborhood market, which is in a C1 type of zoning. So it does establish that, but it doesn't go into enough detail with regard to alcohol sales that perhaps the commission would feel completely 100% comfortable with eliminating the distance rules altogether at this moment, because we would have to tweak that, in order for that to really kind of come into play. Now, what that would do is what could happen, let's just say theoretically, if we tweak the zoning resolution, which I'm not tempted to do it because you guys are not ready to tackle this beer thing yet, so that's not on my plate until you guys tell me to put that on my plate. But if you guys were of a mind to do that, what you could do is we could more specifically address alcohol sales and bifurcate. See, we can't bifurcate them at the beer board level. We can bifurcate them at the zoning level. So what we could do is we could put table sales of alcohol, or say on-premises consumption of alcohol in the C2 zone, and package sales of alcohol in the C1 zone. And if you were to do that and be specific about it, then later that might be something you might want to look at and study more intensely as far as how that would play into that whole process. But again, that's not really on my agenda right now, but I know you guys have to try right now. But it's something to look at.
Okay.
Has any other counties got anything, any different that we know of besides distance for regulating beer sales? I mean, that's the only thing that I've ever heard of as far as distance. Here's your 2,000 feet, or I know it's all different as far as distance goes, but does anybody else have a plan in place as far as a county to where you could do some things like that?
The CTAS people, if I understood what they were saying to me, is end of the day, the distance is what drives the beer permit. Okay, there's no way to get out of.
So it doesn't matter, C1, C2, whatever, you got
No, they don't care whether it's
zero.
or not. The
Yeah.
distance rule is what's going to activate the ability to potentially issue a permit. Now, whatever they're saying that maybe they put in as, okay, now it's permissible by the beer standard, which is all they really care about. They don't care about our local rule, you might say. And that's where he's saying that, long-term, that may be something to work on. Until the commission shows that they have any interest in reducing the distance, it's really, we have plenty of other pressing issues in codes and planning.
Right.
That we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. So I would be of the assumption that the commission needs to say that they would be willing to consider, I'm not saying move it, but willing to consider it, or we don't need to even spend time.
Right, exactly.
From the planning side. I'm not saying the body doesn't deal with
Exactly.
the public when they come forward.
So just so I'm clear, hypothetically, if a store came to the beer board, requested the sales, we move it to zero, they get their permit, then there's C1, C2, we make that change and it's in place. If it's out in the rural community, it's a C1, they would be able to sell the package, but they couldn't consume it in the building.
under our local rules.
If we were to make some changes.
Yes, I know, with change, I'm trying to get the pathway here. And so with that protects that local area, but not superseding what the beer board would say.
It doesn't trump the distance.
Yes.
Right, and whatever you set the distance for one, you have to
For all.
for everybody. You
Yeah.
can't say, well, let it be 500 in this district and 200 in that district.
Yeah.
They clearly said you cannot. Whatever is the shortest distance is then the standard.
Yeah.
And you can't move it back because there was a situation where a commission voted, one commission meeting to reduce it so somebody could get a permit, and then the next commission, they moved it back so nobody else could get it, and the cried foul and says, no, it is now what you allowed it to be, you cannot go back.
Go ahead.
And Drew, one of the things that I see out in the country is then you're gonna have all these requests for C1s
Yeah,
or C2s.
that's what I was thinking.
And where our thought, or my thought process is try to keep the country as we can. But then you have all these requests coming in to change zoning.
Now, with that, I know that our 20-year plan, we were working on that. I know the lady was no longer with the company, it's kind of slowed that down. How is that impacting the 20-year plan for potential changes of C1, C2? Is that something that we can, in that plan, kind of guide that, or?
You know, honestly, that's not something I've asked them to look at. I'm not sure that's the most appropriate thing for the 20-year plan, honestly. The 20-year plan is really about how we visualize the future, what the future of Bedford County is going to look like in our eyes and the eyes of the community, what is worthy of protection, what is, where do we see the growth, commercial growth, industrial growth, residential growth, what type of residential growth, the preservation of our rural village, the character of our rural village that we really want to sort of bring back, and lots of things like that. But it's basically it's an overarching big picture. So we really don't get into a lot of the minutia, in that plan.
Well, I think the rural villages idea, I think is phenomenal. I think that's really where we need to be trending towards, trying to push it into these historical areas, these areas that used to be the thriving areas out in the community. Because I think that if we're doing that, we do help these small businesses be able to push people to those areas to be able to do that. So thank you for working on that.
And I think the comprehensive land use study, correct me if I'm wrong, but what that does is validates what we see and how we want to plan for the future, because we've had a third party evaluate the potential to manage growth in that area or not or whatever. So it's really a protection or another layer of validation behind where we're trying to go. And when I say we, I'm talking about through the planning code, zoning, this body, what do they want to see happen and not happen? That's sort of our stopgap that says, this area makes sense or it doesn't. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then also the planning commission can use it as a tool in their decision-making processes when, somebody wants to apply for literally anything. And we can say, well, we didn't, like Lynn was talking about, if somebody wanted to apply for some offered zoning in a rural area, some intense zoning district in a rural area. We already have a district description in each one, so we always tailor that to that particular area. But if we wanted to take it to a step further, we can do that, and then the planning commission can turn down or approve applications based on what's in that comprehensive plan, and use it almost like it's a zoning book,
Playbook.
A playbook, I guess you could say. The planning commission the county commission also has an opportunity to adopt as well. The problem with the county commission adopting it is then you're pretty well held to those same standards. So a lot of times county commissions don't generally adopt them because then it kind of ties your hands to a document that, and maybe this commission elected this time may be totally copacetic with that plan, but 5 years down the road, you may have different commission members who that doesn't look anything like what they like, and you sort of tie their hands for a while. So it's not typically something that the commission do.
Thank you for that.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Chris? Okay, codes, Amy?
On my report, y'all have 3-page report there. First page is year-to-date this year versus last year. You can see our number of bills higher interest rates, we tend to have more people buying accessory permits in the home they're in. That would be building onto the house, expanding, and those are much smaller value items for improvement versus building a brand new home that's bigger. So, last year, the second page of the report is the 6-year review of building reports, and you'll see we're down about the new home permit issue. We're down about 10 permits from last year at this time. And that again is an indicator of where the interest rates have run, building supply costs. So the values of the improvements have decreased slightly in the county, but we're still pretty high over the 6-year trend. We're still trending right around where we have been the last 6 years. And then the last page shows just the 6 months overview of what our trends have been in the last 6 months. So we're still staying pretty busy in our departments, pretty busy in the county. The new inspector that was hired has passed his first state certification. We're excited, we're heading in the right direction there. He's got 5 more to go, but he can start inspecting now, which is great.
That's good.
Are we seeing a trend of house sizes reducing, those
Yes.
type things?
So one of those indicators is going to be where you see the school facilities tax.
It's down 20%.
That going down tends to be a smaller heated and school square footage. It's also impacted though by the number of housing permits sold. So both of those, it can go up with more housing permits and it can go up with larger heated and cool square footage.
Okay.
And if I could add something, what would you say the average lifespan of that permit is? If I issue a permit today, by the time that thing is totally run its course, are we talking 12, 14, 18 months maybe?
No, much less, typically.
If I get a permit today to build a house, I'm gonna get the house built.
Depends on what builder you are, but.
Okay.
So there's 2 different time frames. So you have the time frame of the person pulling their own permit. Now, that one can run as, you can see them up there of over a year. And as long as construction's ongoing, they don't have to pull another permit if we're not longer than 6 months of inspections. But then you've got the builders that continuously build homes. They can throw one up in about 4 to 8 months.
But again, there's in the pipeline, even though we don't see a
Right,
number of
that's what
60, there's still a lot of things in the pipeline that are
It's still
moving.
going, yeah.
So it's not a total stall.
No, not at all. We've still got we're servicing a lot of permits. And I do have some permits that are being serviced that are more than a year old, that are even more than 2 years old. Now, there's few and far between of those, but it's gonna be your individual person building.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's pretty evident that you take out 2022 as an anomaly, but other than that one, you see a pretty steady growth in both the sizes and income on here. And looking at what Johnny Reed's report on flats, I think that we're still going to continue to see this growth. The growth numbers are just reflected here, but they're not, if you kick out the anomaly out of there, you see a constant number up there, not a spike number, which is good from a management position where we are with people and infrastructure.
Right, on that, I think you're referencing the infrastructure
Yep,
value
yep,
that has increased steadily.
This is very good report right here.
Yeah, it's very good
Yeah.
information. I like this report. Thank you.
Always my favorite.
Thank you. IT.
We're working on a whole lot of projects. Right now, we're doing kind of a needs assessment for physical security, systems, different structures, how we can integrate those into one system as opposed to different systems with law enforcement and our public safety agencies will be able to work together. If there's ever a need for that. But I didn't have a whole lot else to add other than we did move back into our suite. We're still in the process. I mean, that's a process. We've got most of our equipment back in there right now. As of today, we moved some other cabinets back in there. But we're back in there physically. And that, and we also, we got the probation. They have a recording site, you know, below the annex. We got them marking at a fraction of what we thought it was going to initially cost.
Yeah, that was really cheap.
Yes, they were doing a lot with what we have.
That's awesome, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Oh, we did have something come up through the budget that you are able to add. Is this the syncing ability between phone, email versus being able to see it? Is that gonna be involved in that new IT upgrade that was requested in the budget?
So the reason why we requested the upgrade is because we had several commissioners, yourself being one of them, Mr. Maddox as well, and the mayor, and everybody. We had a lot of people that have had trouble synchronizing calendars with your email between phones and your desktop. That's a feature that's provided by Exchange. Microsoft has a service called Exchange. They have a hosted email platform that's available. We currently host our own email. That's something that we want to look for migrating into. It's not that it's a situation where a lot of IT departments in the private and the public sector are having to move that direction because not so much as the features, but more on the security side. And the reason why is because, and you can justify the security side a whole lot better. Some might argue, well,
I just won't be selfish with a sync.
I mean, some might say, well, some people might say, well, that's really expensive. We've been spending $1,500 on email. We're just going to spend another $20,000 a year. No. But what it really is that we have to meet certain audit standards. And if we don't meet those audit standards, we're going to lose access to public safety grants. And so it's going to end up costing us money if we don't move in this direction. So we will gain a lot of features, which is exciting for us all. But the biggest feature that I'm the most excited about is the security piece. Multi-factor authentication.
Well, thank you for putting that together, because I think that was definitely important. So thank you for that.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions before we move forward? Okay, Mark, Fire Department.
Yeah, no report, a lot to add to it other than going on their training activities. We had the solar farm training and we've got another one coming up. Chris got us hooked up on the one out there on Frank Martin Road and capabilities. We've been doing a lot of training with the lithium-ion battery stuff that's coming out, and the dangers and stuff that come with that, and what our capabilities might be in that. And luckily, that solar farm has no lithium battery storage facility at all. So it goes, whatever power they produce goes strictly into the TVA grid. It's direct power. So
That's interesting.
So.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Mark? Okay, 911, I don't think he's here, is he? Everybody's got the report from 911, any discussion on that? Okay, GIS.
Don't really have much to add to the written report unless there are any questions.
I don't think I do. Does anybody else have any questions? I don't think so. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve all the reports.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, and old business, the first thing on our old business is juvenile detention. As y'all know, we've been having some study sessions on that, and Kelly couldn't be here tonight. I think she's been hot all day. She said she was soaking wet with sweat. So, do you know, while we're on that, do you know, have they put in like a work order, or is it going to be taken care of, or do you know what's going on with their air?
Yeah, again, all that system is the old antiquated.
I know.
They go take parts off of something somewhere else to try to jump it. And so, but yeah.
Okay,
it's not-
I assumed it was, but I at least wanted to address it on her behalf.
I totally agree.
Okay. But I'll let the committee go ahead and speak on what their concerns are with juvenile detention, and then I'll suggest a plan.
Yeah, I have a question. Judge Rich, you might be able to help me with this. I had a constituent reach out to me specifically about the data that was sent to the Law Enforcement Committee on the number of Bedford County juveniles this last year versus kind of what our report was for the estimation of if we decided to send these out of county.
We kind of seen this year currently, on average, about 75 total for the year, and 500 nights that they would be staying. Is that kind of a trend? Because we noticed during COVID, there was kind of a spike. Are the numbers this year kind of in line with how they normally are?
It is lower. Exactly how many.
Yeah, and I just.
Well, I think what was confusing everybody is, I think in some of the numbers, like the out-of-county was in with the numbers, and Kelly's not here really to speak on it, but I did a little research today and talked to Lori on how they came up with their numbers, and Robert on how he came up with his. And I think Kelly had provided them with a letter, and I found it in my email from May of 2022, that said that she had put in there that it was on an average of about 200 from the year before that they had. So it was up that year. Now, back in 2017, 2018, they were like at 180 that was in county. So, and then this year, we're way down.
Yeah, this
So,
year-
I mean, it's going to fluctuate. I mean, it's not going to be the same every year, for sure.
It averages about 80 a semester, each school semester is about 80.
Because currently this year, we're on trend for 75 total for the year and 500 nights, which what we were on our assumptions was 200 and 1,600 bed nights. So you can see the drastic difference, because we were looking at an average of 447,916 as a projected cost. But if you look at this year's numbers, the number would actually only be 230,816. So, and that's including those two officers that would be needing to transport. And it's just, so you're saying this year is kind of an anomaly low as to what you're.
I think it was saying to me, and it just.
It's going to change from year to year.
And exactly why, I don't know.
Are we looking at a year or just 5 months that we're in this year?
No, I'm looking at from July of last year to July, or June of this year, so this fiscal year. And of course, I trended it out. It's an average of 6 a month. And then, of course, if it trends out the way it's been going, it'd be about 500 bed nights. And I just want to make sure that we're looking at those numbers, because it's important as we go to make this decision. That 200 is significantly higher than what we're seeing this year. And again,
But I think
yes,
this
that
year
fluctuates.
is the anomaly, because it's typically way more than that.
This year is not been the norm.
That's not
So
the
you
norm.
can't believe, or would you go on the record saying that you believe it will only be 75 next year?
No, again, I'm going off what
Just
data I
this
have
year,
in front
you're
of
not
me.
looking at all the back
I think that's why Robert printed the one for us that was from 2017, 2018, just to show that that they've been like at 100, that was like 100.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm expressing a concern of a constituent that contacted me. So I'm relaying that, and I'm going to ask questions. So that's just how that's going to be. I'm not assuming anything. What I'm doing is relaying a concern from a constituent.
Commissioner Thomas.
So,
And two on the, I think that they projected 2 officers. I'm afraid that's not gonna be correct, because they can't work 24/7.
Mhm.
And we all know how these juveniles, if you've ever worked in it, and I've worked with law enforcement before, it's not shift work. It's something all the time, so I would say 2 officers would be.
I think the one thing that really
enough.
kind of blew my mind, because I didn't know enough about it, and when we started studying this, is the fact that you still have to have a holding place. You still got to keep them. You're still going to have something because you're not going to be able to find a location for them if you do send them out, immediately, because there's so few facilities.
And just as a way to, I guess, illustrate that, yesterday, we had juvenile court, we had 6 in detention. Now, who's to say that those 6 are going to be, well, the first one, you can't go in one car and pick up 6 kids.
Right.
I don't know if we've got a van good enough to pick them. And that's assuming that they're in the same class.
Right.
So, I mean,
And that they're all.
but that's a
in the
sheriff's
mayor's
problem,
penal.
that's not mine.
Right. I hear you.
They just got to be in front of you.
But one of the things that I was thinking would be a good idea, because I think this has been one of the questions of all the commissioners that's been studying this, is, if we were to build a facility at some point, what would be the cost, what would be the revenue source? And so I was thinking it would be a good idea to send this to finance to study and to let them kind of give us some ideas of financial numbers. And I don't know, what's the wishes of the committee? I mean,
we've looked at it for about 2 months, 3 months. I don't see any problem going forward to finance, let them look at
I
the
mean,
financial part of
I
it.
think it does nothing but give us more information at this point. And then we can, once we get that, then we can discuss, you know, we can look in more detail. And I think when you look at a juvenile being sent out, I think we've almost got to look at it as what is it going to cost us, like for that one juvenile? And, you know, is it trending over the years? And look at the trend. What's the lowest, what's the highest it's been? You know, because we're not going to be able to guess that. Yeah. And every time you have somebody, the number of transports is going to change too, depending on how many times they go to court, if they have to go, if they're, let's say they're over in, yeah, and let's say they're over in Memphis, let's say they went, or Putnam County or wherever, and they had to go to the doctor, then we've got to go transport them to the doctor. You know, it's those kinds of things that are going to be unknowns and variables for sure. But what's the wishes of the committee? I know we just said that we thought that would be good, but we would need a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to send it to finance, let them review the building issue. Give us maybe some stages of the building, like we've mentioned with kitchen, without kitchen, some things, maybe some options cost-wise.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, the next thing that's on our old business is the request for donation to Talbot House of the building currently housing surplus. I spoke with Sarah Hooper at the end of this last week, and she sent me, she said she was so sorry she had not kept in touch, but that her group has decided not to proceed forward with it at this time. She said that they decided it was going to cost them too much money, and they really were no longer interested. So that leaves that building sitting there, and we were talking a few minutes ago, it would be a good idea maybe to go ahead and surplus it if we want to sell it.
I think
Instead
that's
of
a
it
good
sitting,
idea.
we've already surplused it, yep.
But if you're not sure, we can send it again.
But we still have to send out for bids if somebody wants to purchase it, correct? For RF, what's that called? RFP.
Right now.
Hey, that's the word. I always say Q, I get
Surplus
messed
is
up.
still in there.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
So we have
that's
to
the
figure
only
out
activity.
somewhere for that to go to.
Yeah, but we could do it, but I'm just saying that's the only activity that's
Okay.
actively going on in that building.
Okay. So what's the wishes of the committee for that building at this point?
What would if we did decide to surplus that and sell that, where would the proceeds of that go?
If you could stipulate that, if you wanted to at the time of it, if not, it would, what we had said in previous commissions is that we would try to, every chance we had the opportunity, we would put money back into the hospital fund that we drew $1 million from. Of the $1 million, we put back a little bit over $300,000 so far, so we've not capped or got back to the $1 million amount that we hoped to get to. So that's certainly one of the places that
Yeah, you could stipulate how we spend money.
What's that to be used for, Chad, that hospital? What's that?
That hospital
Yeah.
fund sits as a reserve or a backup if you had an issue as a county, but it plays into our bond rating whenever Moody's or whoever it is that does your evaluations to score your rating for your interest rates and all that. You've got to have assets
Right.
in place, and so that's, but it is taxpayer money with the county. You
Right.
could certainly ask and make a motion and amendment from through finance, you'd have to have an
Right.
amendment and move it somewhere else and do something. I mean, the commission could do something if they wanted to, but historically, they've held on to it for the purpose of helping make sure, one, if there was a disaster, they had a way to recover, but most importantly, to not affect their bond rating.
We have tried for the last 4 years to get our bond rating up, and we followed our financial advisor's suggestions, and that is to have this setback fund available for us, and that takes our bond rating up, which allows us to borrow cheaper. And because of the 81 Act, we can't go a whole lot higher where we are, but we can sure go a whole lot lower. This keeps us at a level rate when we go borrow money, and it's critical that we have that reserve fund in there.
Commissioner Thomas?
Do y'all need to maybe get an appraisal so we know if we did put this out for sealed bids, whether or not we're actually getting dollars for it. I don't know if that's.
I mean, we've got our tax card
Yeah,
here.
I was gonna say, you have the tax
Yeah,
information.
it's
So
got it at-
appraisal's
Not necessary or.
Well, it wouldn't be
It's got it at
required, but if you don't feel
381.3.
like that fairly represents probably the cost, but I think it was was it
381.
381.3.
Yeah, I think, is that the property and the building? That's the total? You know, there'll be like two numbers.
Land was 112, improvement, yeah, so, yeah,
It's
381.
got the land too. Let's see, it should tell a number.
Yeah,
of
I'd like to
acres.
make a motion to surplus that building and put those proceeds towards the juvenile detention project. And then that way they can let finance be able to take that into account as they look at our options.
Well, that's not really something, are you saying that you won't sell it if it don't bring that much, or you're saying whatever it brings?
Send out RFP though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can put a reserve that if it don't bring a certain amount, I mean, you don't have to, I mean, the county would have the right to reject.
Yeah, I think.
But yeah, it would have to be a sealed bid and all that. It'd have to follow.
And let me put that stipulation that it would have to bring at least the appraised value.
Let me ask you one other thing. What do we do about our surplus?
Yeah.
Sometimes that building
Where are
is
we gonna
full.
put it?
Yeah, we've sold off all of our storage facilities, basically.
Yeah, because that needs to be decided before we do
Yeah,
that.
because there's gonna be, at times, and I don't know how much is in their surplus, but what do we do with that?
Yeah, we would have to have we would have to, we talked about a pole barn at one time, concept, something similar to that nature, that would be a certainly much smaller space than what's currently there. We're only using that because the building existed, but you're gonna have to have some space, and there's gonna be some costs associated with putting that up. But it would be, you know, it wouldn't have a kitchen, it wouldn't have a bathroom, it wouldn't be, we envision, you know, basically two doors, an indoor and an outdoor on each end, and a ramp, and whatever square footage that we think we gotta have, and surplus come in, and we don't intend to hang on.
Well, let me do this. Let me rescind that,
Yeah.
and then let's do can we do an official appraisal? And do we have that ability to do an official appraisal?
Well,
And
you
then,
can, but you're pay for it.
okay.
We too.
I don't wanna waste the
Yeah, I don't
I don't
really
wanna
wanna
waste
waste
the
the
money.
I don't
Just put it
either.
out for bid, and if it don't bring what, you don't award it, reject it, you know? It don't bring what you want it to bring.
Do we need to study this for a month to see
We
if
probably
we have
need to
the
figure
other
out where we're
option?
gonna put the surplus unless
You
you,
need to have, or how you would fund, how you would manage
your
your
surplus.
surplus.
Where's that pole barn going, Chad? Y'all got a location?
Don't necessarily have a location, there was some discussion maybe out at the old medical arts building, kind of on the back side where
Yeah.
Stanley butts up to.
Yeah,
Not that
don't
close
give
to
us
the
time
fence,
to
but
look.
back over in there to the grassy area. But again, that was just
Yeah.
early thoughts of where.
Well, let's defer this a month, and then would you have the ability to kind of research some options for us and maybe give us a general cost? That way we can have a little better
I don't think we get done this
understanding.
month because of budgets, but yes, we can
Right.
get done in short order.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, does anybody have any other old business? Any new business? Okay, any announcements?
Well, I'll just announce again that District 4 will have their town hall meeting, 6:30, Monday, the 22nd, at Liberty School.
District 1 is gonna have ours on June 8th at 6 o'clock at War Trace Gymnasium.
All about it?
Absolutely, especially you.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.